What is the plight of the black man? The plight of the black man is a very sensitive subject because a lot of things will have to be mentioned. A lot of uncomfortable things will have to be mentioned. Now, we know that we have always had a small percentage of people that are doing very well in America, actors, athletes, and people of that nature. But what about the rest of black America? What about the common man? Why, after almost 400 years, are we still fighting for fair trials? In Garner, Louisiana, there were thousands of people bused to this city. They couldn't even hold this amount of people, all down there to fight for fair treatment of young black boys who got into a schoolyard fight. In the Janalo Wilson case, we watched a young man prosecuted to the full extent of the law for violating a new law that was never meant to be applied to teenagers. While on the other side, we watched large-scale financial corruption, billions of dollars being stolen, 401ks and retirement plans made null and void. Many lives were ruined, yet there was no disciplinary action for any of those events, which brings about many questions. One of which, why is there such a large disparity between the blacks that are in prison and any other ethnic group? Why has there been a breakdown of our family structure? Did the civil rights movement and desegregation help or hurt us as a people? Because no other group that has ever been in America has desegregated themselves. Every other ethnic group that comes into this country, they all stay segregated to one another. We are the only ones that desegregated, and look at our plight today. We've heard of things like the black codes and Jim Crow laws, but we say, those things are in the past. But are they really? After such a long time of these conditions, one might ask, is there any hope for us in America? And why is Hollywood neglected to tell our story? But maybe they shouldn't tell our story. It's our story, and we need to tell it.
I feel that the black man has a lot of challenges. I mean, my brother's a black male. He just graduated, so he is living beyond the stereotypes of someone 18 living in America. But I feel, I mean, there's issues and there's problems in every community, but I feel that as the black community, we always strive and persevere in every situation. So I feel that we should just come together and solve our own issues.
We are lost as a nation and as a people and as a whole in the world.
There are many ills within the black community, and many reasons are cited for the things that we see in our communities daily. However, the explanation for those things that we see is very simple. It is the breakdown of the family structure. The family has always been the core, the nucleus to a society in its survival and its functioning in our world today. What you will see today is the breakdown of the black family.
The breakdown of the family structure. All societies throughout history have depended heavily on the family to provide both social order and economic success. But today, families face growing problems in all areas and are functioning less well than ever before. The most serious negative effects of the functional decline of families are on the children. We've forgotten what the psalmist said, "Lo, the children are a heritage of Yahweh, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate." Psalms 127, verses 3 through 5. The family unit is struggling to survive in an environment of increased juvenile delinquency, violence, suicide, substance abuse, eating disorders, and premarital births. Yet fewer children are being born into families than in the past. Even though there are more adults available to care for them, today's generation of U.S. children is the first in history to be less well off psychologically, socially, emotionally, and spiritually than their parents were at the same age. And of course, the incidence of the broken family structure is much, much higher in the black community. The official position of U.S. government is that unemployment, poverty, and race are primary factors of crime due to the large disparities between blacks and whites in these three categories. But a closer look at the same data shows that the real cause is the broken family structure and feelings of illegitimacy it causes in our children. In 1995, social historian David Blankenhorn warned us that fatherlessness is the most harmful demographic trend of this generation.
And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of Yahweh. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4.
Even money or the lack thereof is not a factor, since working class, middle, upper middle, and even wealthy blacks are not being parents as well. Too many young men and women from broken families tend to have a much higher, weaker sense of connection with their neighborhoods. They are prone to exploit its members to satisfy their own unmet needs and desires. Children grow up feeling a loss of belonging to anything or anyone at the deepest levels possible, which affects the family, causing further tension and disruption of the family structure. This disconnect spreads abroad into the community like a plague floating on the wind that causes the disintegration of neighborhoods, which morph overnight into areas of social chaos and violent crime. Much of what we see in black families today can be traced back to the destruction of the black family during slavery. Then we must repair the breach where it began. The colonial disrespect of the black marriage union and family structure was further weakened intentionally by the removal of the black male, the family head. Cut off the head and the body will die, or better yet, cut off the power from the head and the body is rendered powerless to stand. This is the key factor to all social ills within the black family, and so the question becomes, where have all the fathers gone?
For our fathers have trespassed and done that which was evil in the eyes of Yahweh, our Elohim, and have forsaken him, and have turned away their faces from the habitation of Yahweh, and turned their backs. Also, they have shut up the doors of the porch, and put out the lamps, and have not burned incense, nor offered burnt offerings in the holy place unto the Elohim of Israel. Wherefore the wrath of Yahweh was upon Judah and Jerusalem, and have delivered them to trouble, to astonishment, and to hissing, as you see with your eyes. 2 Chronicles chapter 29, verses 6 through 8.
The trend of single-parent families has been individually perpetrated by us over time through our failure to take personal responsibility for our own actions and misdeeds, past and present. In Western nations, and particularly the U.S., people willingly say "I do" in marriage vows and then simply end up saying "I won't" any longer. But the psalmist said it is better that you do not vow than to make a vow and neglect to pay it.
Therefore, Yahweh shall have no joy in their young men, neither shall have mercy on their fatherless and widows. For everyone is a hypocrite and an evildoer, and every mouth speaketh folly. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 17.
With the loss of the black male in the home, boys are unable to know true masculinity because the very image of masculinity is unavailable. It also gives girls an image of what a husband is.
Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which Yahweh your Elohim giveth you. Exodus chapter 20, verse 12.
Interviews involving incarcerated black male adults indicated that few good things had been a part of their lives. Close family members with poor life examples were their role models. They experienced frequent discomfort and failures in school. Conflict and misunderstanding describes their relationships with females, and they had assumed full responsibility for the outcome of their own lives. However, as innocents, they were not responsible for raising themselves, having never experienced the direction of parents.
My son, pay attention unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding. Proverbs chapter 5, verse 1.
These are the disturbing facts. Over the past 30 years, the rise in violent crimes parallels the rise in families abandoned by fathers. High crime neighborhoods are characterized by high concentrations of families abandoned by fathers. The rate of violent teenage crime corresponds with the number of families abandoned by fathers. The type of aggression and hostility demonstrated by a future criminal often is foreshadowed in unusual aggression that can be seen as early as age 5 or 6. State analysis by scholars indicate that a 10% increase in the percentage of children living in single-parent homes leads typically to a 17% increase in juvenile crime. The future criminal tends to be someone rejected by other children as early as the first grade, who goes on to form his own group of friends, often the future criminal gang. This contradicts conventional wisdom, but the facts are clear. At the heart of the explosion of black crime is the loss of the capacity of fathers and mothers to be responsible in caring for the children they bring into this world. It's the loss of love and guidance at intimate levels of marriage and family that has deep social consequences for children and the wider community.
For lo, our fathers have fallen by the sword, and our sons and our daughters and our wives are in captivity for this. Now it is in mine heart to make a covenant with Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, that his fierce wrath may turn away from us. My sons, be not now negligent, for Yahweh hath chosen you to stand before him, to serve him, that you should minister unto him and burn incense. 2 Chronicles chapter 29, verses 9 through 11.
Today's black society has wasted precious time and money asserting our financial independence by buying materialistic items in pursuit of the American dream, with the subconscious thought that these items are an entree into middle American society into which we've never been allowed. Instead of making the quality of life better for black families by building a strong moral and loving foundation here at home, we've even lost precious time and money concentrating on Africa, to which we have no real ties.
And why call you me Lord, Lord, and do not the things which I say? But he that heareth and doeth not is like a man that without a fountain built an house upon the earth, against which the stream did beat vehemently, and immediately it fell, and the ruin of that house was great. Luke chapter 6, verses 46 through 49.
In contrast, black neighborhoods who do build upon a solid rock foundation with high moral lifestyles are not high crime neighborhoods. Even in high crime inner city neighborhoods, over 90% of children from stable homes do not become delinquents. Criminals who marry and sustain it move away from a life of crime. A mother's strong, affectionate attachment to her child is a good buffer against a life of crime, but the father's authority and involvement in raising his children is the primary buffer against a life of crime for those fathers who avoid crime by example.
Behold, I will send you Elijah, the prophet, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of Yahweh. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to the fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Malachi chapter 4, verse 5 through 6.
According to the New York Times in 1989, while Jesse Jackson led a movement to call blacks African Americans, elder blacks who lived through previous name changes resisted the move, warning that it would only turn our attention away from the social ills that were becoming rampant within black families even then. The elders also remembered that black females, with their inner strength and determination, worked hard to make their homes a place where the black male could be the head as they were created to be. They understood what the prophet said.
Children's children are the crown of all men, and the glory of children are their fathers. Proverbs chapter 17.
Have you considered the many things that why the black man is having so many problems in this country here in America? If you think that's something, maybe you ought to go back about at least 6,000 years and see the problems that our fathers had. And then once you see the problems that our fathers had when we were in the land, then you can very well see why the children of Israel, our people, are having the problems that we are having here, being the children of and captives, the captive children rather of ex-slaves in this country. But these things all took place simply because our fathers did not do what Yahweh our Elohim said, and he pronounced a lot of curses on our people, which are written in Deuteronomy 28 chapter, most of them. And when you look at our people, you can very well see that these things has not come upon anyone else except this so-called renamed black men here in America. But let me read some things to you that Yahweh that was told to our people, and then maybe we can get some understanding as to why we suffer the things that we do today. I'm going to start this at Deuteronomy chapter 4, and I'm going to read a few verses out of Deuteronomy chapter 4. This is verse 1. It says, Now therefore hearken, O Israel, unto the statutes and to the judgments which I teach you for to do them, that you may live, and go in and possess the land which Yahweh your Elohim of your fathers gave you. You shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall you diminish aught from it, that you may keep the commandments of Yahweh your Elohim. Verse 6, Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, Surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. Well, we don't practice these things today. What we practice is what we are taught in the church. This is why we become a foolish and a sottish people instead of a wise and understanding people. Verse 7, For what nation is so great, who has Elohim so close nigh unto them, as Yahweh our Elohim is in all things that we call upon him for? And what nation is just so great that has statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law, which I set before you this day? Only take heed to yourself and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things which your eyes have seen, and they depart from your heart all the days of your life. But teach them to your sons and to your daughters. Now I'm going to skip over to verse 25. It says, When you shall beget children, and children, and you shall remain long in the land, and shall corrupt yourself, and make a graven image, the likeness for anything, and shall do evil in the sight of Yahweh your Elohim to provoke him to anger, I call heaven and earth against you this day, that you shall soon utterly perish from off the land where you go over to the Jordan to possess it. You shall not prolong your days upon it, but you shall be utterly destroyed. And Yahweh shall scatter you among the nations, and you shall be left few in number among the heathen, whither Yahweh shall lead you. And there you shall serve gods, the work of men's hand, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. Well, when you look right at that, we do worship the God of the nation. But if from there you shall seek Yahweh Elohim, you shall find him, if you seek him with all your heart and all your soul. When you are in tribulation, he's talking about the great tribulation period that's going to come upon the earth, which is referring to the opening of the sixth seal in the book of Revelations. And all these things will come upon you even in the latter days. If you turn into Yahweh Elohim and shall be obedient to his voice, for Yahweh your Elohim is a merciful Elohim, he will not forsake you, neither shall he destroy you, nor forget the covenant of your fathers which he sware unto them. For ask now of the days that were past, which were before thee, since the day that Elohim created man upon the earth, and ask from the one end of the heaven unto the other, whether there has been any such thing as this great thing which is or has happened, and as you have heard it. Did ever a people hear the voice of Elohim speaking out of the midst of the fire as you did and live? I have Elohim essayed to go and take him a nation from the midst of another nation by temptation, signs, and by wonders, and by war, and by a mighty hand, and by a stretched out arm, and by great terrors, according to all that Yahweh your Elohim did for you in Egypt before your eyes. Unto you it was shown that you mightest know that Yahweh, he is Elohim, and there is none besides him. Out of heaven he made you to hear his voice, that he might instruct you, and upon the earth he showed you his great fire. And you heard the words coming out of this great fire. So as we can very well see, Yahweh chose our people. He gave us his law. But people say, people say today, well, Yahweh cast Israel off, and he chose us after Christ was come. Well, I think that's one of the big lies that you're gonna that you're gonna read if you read your whole book instead of listening to what someone else tell you. But let's see what took place here in the New Testament. Now, we know that Paul wrote the book of Hebrews. Now let's see some things that Paul told the Hebrews. This is in Hebrews chapter 8, and I'm going to start this at verse 7. You see, Yahweh never left us alone. People talking about, well, that was the old covenant. Well, let's see what Yahweh said concerning the new covenant, which you hear very few people talking about today. This is Hebrews chapter 8. Now, the prophecy of this was in Jeremiah 31st chapter. And it's more to it that's written right here in the New Testament. The New Testament is a confirmation of things that were said in the Old. But let's see what was said about our people here. This is Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 7. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with the people, he said, behold, the days come, saith the Adonai, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith Yahweh. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Yahweh. I will put my law in their minds and write it in their hearts, and I will be to them Elohim, and they shall be to me a people. So study your history, because our deliverance is at hand, and you have the richest history upon the face of the earth, and it deals directly with the true and living God. And no one else could make this claim except the children of Israel. As a matter of fact, when the first Gentile, Cornelius, heard the word, he sent him to a Jew, for the Jew to tell him that word. And truly, Paul, and if you read Acts 18, Paul was a Nazarene, and he was a Jew of Tarsus. So consider these things, because it's a reason for our plight, but Yahweh is raising up a people nowadays that see the paganism and the sin that's going on among the nations in this pit that all the nations have dug for themselves. And Yahweh is calling up a people out of that pit to bring them back to the land of Israel and to give our people the joy and the hope, fulfill the hope that we have in his holy word. So let us consider these things, because our deliverance is at hand, and Yahweh Elohim meant everything he said, and truly he is bringing his word to pass upon this earth. Peace, and Yahweh be with y'all. My name is Yaakov ben Israel. I'm the elder priest, the watchman of the new